what's your take on this wide receiving core?
Oh, I think it's terrible. I think it's awful. I think it's absolutely horrendous.
Wait a second. There's a penalty on the play, and I'm like, what?
Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
Joining us on the phone, we have NFL prospect and future XFL player Jeremiah Spicer.
I don't know, man. I don't like to talk about myself like that, man.
Yeah. I told him if the Raiders took in Oliver, I was going to take him in the bathroom. He won twice.
Dude, the last time I checked, I am God, so slow your roll. Slow your roll down.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Noodles? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the No Show. We are ready to go. It's playoff time.
Oh, absolutely.
Can't wait to kick this thing off.
Dying for this to happen here. You know, now everything's all set. The regular season's all done. Mm-hmm. It's all done. It is sad, and yes, our teams are getting out of the playoffs again, and we're in reset mode a little bit. At least my team, again, the New York Giants. They fired Pat Shurmur, so I'm a little excited about that, but scared at the same time because now Dave Gettleman has to choose another guy here. Mike McCarthy's along some of the names been interviewed. A lot of people going on here, and a lot of teams now searching for guys. So it'd be very crazy to see what's going on with that further on. And now we'll leave that to another episode. But tonight's show is about the wild card weekend matchups that we've got going on here, Joe. It's very exciting, and it was interesting to see last week with some of the teams that had sat some of their players, where you and I had talked about it on our last show, where the Houston Texans, if they decided to sit starters, which they did, they put A.J. McCarron in, and others didn't play, and they allowed now the Tennessee Titans now to get that win. They solidify their chance in the playoffs now, and now they're facing off against the Patriots in a little bit. So that's going to be a crazy matchup. But first of all, the first matchup that we have on Saturday that we're going to be looking at is the Buffalo Bills and now the Houston Texans. And now a lot of our fan base here are Texans fans, so I'm sure they're really excited to see the Texans back in the playoffs. J.J. Watt's going to be healthy now for this game. He comes back. All their starters going to be back in here. They're hoping Kenny Stills can make it.
Will Fuller.
And Will Fuller, too. It's a big difference when both those guys are in the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, just having that extra element up the slot in the other spots here to get DeAndre Hopkins open and other players involved. I mean, it makes Deshaun Watson's job a lot easier.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing, too, is when you have Will Fuller, it also has to shift that defensive coverage over a little bit more away from Hopkins. Hopkins is a very dynamic receiver and very explosive, and everybody knows it. It's not a secret. So a lot of times they like to double-team him, especially if Will Fuller's not around. Now, if Will Fuller can be healthy enough for this game, it'll be critical for the Houston Texans offense going forward, because now they have Carlos Hyde in the backfield for them, running the ball very well all season long. Very quietly had a successful season for the Houston Texans. And now you're coming into the playoffs hopefully healthier than when you left the regular season. If Will Fuller can play in this game, it's going to be a big-time lift for the Houston Texans offense. It's going to take some pressure away from Hopkins, which in turn is going to make that whole offense run very, very smoothly for Deshaun Watson and company. Now, on the defensive side of the ball for the Texans, they have J.J. Watt coming back. I don't know in what kind of capacity he's going to come back, if he's going to be a full-time starter or kind of a rotational piece for them. He is coming off a big injury, and depending on how healthy his body is, I know he's been practicing limited throughout the week, and they're hoping that he's a full go, but if not, he'll still be a factor for this Texans defense. To pair him up with Whitney Mercilus and him, it's a devastating pass rush. And they're going to need it because the Texans throughout the year, they've struggled in the pass defense part of that D. And what made their defense a little bit stronger was they added two key corners throughout the season. They ended up picking up Vernon Hargreaves from Tampa Bay, who they just flat out cut the kid. And he's been playing fairly well for them at times. And then also they pulled off a trade for Gareon Conley from the Raiders, starting corner for the Raiders. Now he goes over to Houston. Now he's starting there. You have Hargreaves, who started for Tampa. Gareon Conley there, along with Jonathan Joseph. And Jonathan Joseph, we talked about it before we even started, is he's banged up too. There's a question mark whether he'll be able to go into this game and play. But luckily he picked up those two corners. It's making that defense as a whole, they kind of grew together when they made those acquisitions. Now the defense isn't as porous as it once was in the past defensive game, and they've gotten better as the weeks have rolled on. Now it's the playoffs. Now it's different. It's almost like a clean slate for every team that makes it to the playoffs. It's completely different. It's a different atmosphere. It's completely different. And then when you look at the Bills in this matchup, Bills got a really, really good defense, a solid defense. The only question in my mind is how healthy their other starting corner is in Levi Wallace. Mm-hmm. He got banged up in the last regular season game, and there's a question of how healthy he's going to be for this playoff game. If he's not there, there's a big drop-off there at corner in Kevin Johnson, who they signed, in this past season. So after that, I really don't know how much help they have. I think he's really kind of like a last resort for cornerbacks on that roster. So that could be something to keep an eye on going into this matchup, as their defense isn't 100% healthy either, and they too have their shares of bumps and bruises. And then on offense, Josh Allen. What Josh Allen are we going to see in this matchup?
Absolutely.
Are we going to see the guy who, just kind of doesn't produce under the pressure that's going to be after him? J.J. Watt you're going to have coming at you. Whitney Merciless you're going to have coming at you. You got to be smart with the football. You got to set your feet. You got to step into your throws. He's been struggling with footwork for the second part of this season, big time. And that's what's leading to a lot of the inaccurate throws that he's making, and it's not helping this offense out. He needs to step up in this game in order for the Bills to have a shot against the Houston Texans. It's going to be a tough matchup, and I can't wait for it.
Absolutely. And Josh Allen, talk about his footwork. Also, he's got such a strong arm, and he's used to, back in college, making those deeper throws, and that's what he would rely on. He's got to learn now to get a little bit of that touch, a little bit of that finesse pass here going on to get his receivers can get to it.
He does have it. It's just in his footwork. That's been the problem for the second part of this season for him.
And the Bills have got to start producing points here, too. They are like 24th and 25th here in yards and scoring here in the NFL, and they're relying on their defense here, who's ranked second and third here on defense, and to allow them to keep in the games. But where they're starting to play now, it's playoff time. You're seeing these other teams that can put up points. We saw the Texans go toe-to-toe with some of these teams and beat the Patriots and be able to score points. If you can only score 6 points against the Jets, you got problems. You know what I'm saying? And now that's not a good way to make it into the playoffs. You're kind of backdooring it into the playoffs here, sort of like the way now the Patriots kind of did too. You come off a loss to the Dolphins and everything. Yes, and you're backdooring into it. You want to usually go into the playoffs with momentum. Those are the teams that go in and they move further on in the playoffs and keep moving forward. Is the guys that just get hot towards the end and keep going. You don't want to come off a couple of losses. It's like, and now your game plan here is like, all right, let's come through here and try and pull out a win here, everybody. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be a tough matchup here. You've got a really great defense against a prolific offense, as long as all the weapons here are all together here for the Texans.
Right.
That's a nice matchup. Looking forward to this coming up on Saturday afternoon, 4:35. I'm excited to check it out.
It's going to be interesting to see how the battle in the trenches is going to shake up. Because on one hand, you have the Texans' offensive line, which really hasn't been the best. I mean, besides that trade that they pulled off to get the left tackle there from Miami Dolphins.
Laramie Tunsil. Yes.
Laramie Tunsil. He's been amazing for them. He's really made a huge difference. But here's the thing, is you also are going against one of the better defensive lines right now in the league. And you're going to have to pass protect well for him. Now, Deshaun Watson, he's another type of quarterback who has kind of held onto the ball here and there a little bit too long and not getting out of his hand, knowing he doesn't have a very prolific offensive line. So he too is going to have to get the ball out of his hands quickly to keep the ball rolling with this offense, They got to have a good game plan. Bill O'Brien and company got to have a good game plan coming in here to mix it up and keep it balanced. Run the ball, throw the ball, get the ball out of Deshaun Watson's hands fairly quick. Keep the Bills' defense off balance. And that is going to be the big matchup there.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to that and see what happens, what goes down here on Saturday afternoon. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans versus the New England Patriots now, and that's going to be at Saturday night at 8:15. That's going to be a late game in Foxborough, and we were just looking at the weather report, and it doesn't look so good. It's going to be pretty messy there. It's going to be probably a little chilly there, too, and we know the wind picks up in Foxborough, so it's going to get pretty hairy there.
It looks right now. It doesn't look like it's going to be super windy, but, it's going to be around 40 degrees. It's going to be some light rain. Don't know the duration of that rain, that precipitation that's going to be coming down, but it's going to play a factor, especially on kickoff. So you might see in this game more running than you do passing. Trying to establish the run is going to be critical for both teams, and these two teams can run the ball well. We've seen Derrick Henry run the ball extremely well. Again, it doesn't matter who they go up against. Somehow, some way, Henry finds a way and gets the yardage. And then for the Patriots, this is kind of a big deal for the Pats, is if the Patriots can establish the run game, it's going to make their offense really tough to stop. And that's really what they've kind of been leaning on offense, is the run game. We've seen just this past week, the Miami Dolphins beat the Patriots because they stuffed the run game for the Patriots and forced them to throw the ball. And I know that sounds insane because you're like, wait, Tom Brady is an amazing quarterback. You can't stop him when he throws the ball. Well, Tom is not Tom anymore like we once have known him recently. Tom is now starting to overthrow the ball a little bit more often, underthrow the ball a little bit more often, and he's always looking for Julian Edelman, his savior, in the middle of the football field. Dolphins double-teamed him. So if the Titans can do the same thing, at least even a little bit, it'll be critical for them to shut down his favorite target and stop that run. If they can do that, that's going to make this game really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And the Patriots O-line, they're not playing as well either. And
right,
like you said, people are finally getting to Brady now and pressuring him, and he isn't making those throws. He's throwing them a little short, not getting them to Edelman. And the problem is the revolving door of wide receivers they had this season. If you think about it, they've had Josh Gordon.
How many different
they've had
lineups
Antonio Brown, and now they've got Mohamed Sanu here, and
which they traded away a second-round pick for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so they've even given up picks on that end, and Julian Edelman trying to cover it all when you don't have. Now you're maybe seeing the effect of not having Rob Gronkowski there. That other go-to guy that you could see on different matchups to lessen the load for Julian Edelman. Now he's got to take it all, but now he's getting banged up so severely now. You got to double-team Julian Edelman and force him to throw it to somebody else. And unfortunately, we're big Mohamed Sanu fans, but it seems like now he's towards his twilight years.
They're not even really using him
as much.
That much. And he's not even in the offensive snaps that much, and that could be because of the emergence of N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry is now with the team healthy finally, and he's been producing every time he's asked to. So he's been getting open. He's been catching the ball from Brady when he receives it, and he's been doing a fantastic job. And I think that kind of has demoted Mohamed Sanu a little bit, and now is seen more of like the third or fourth receiver in that rotation. So we don't see him as much. So I think they might have given a little bit too much to get that trade to go through. But this matchup right here in the playoffs against the Titans, it's going to be interesting nonetheless. And Brady has had time before, not even being pressured. And he's had a lot of time and still can't make the throw. So this is it has to be concerning for New England fans going into this game because, I mean, there was a team that you faced last week in the Miami Dolphins that everybody expected you to beat them. Everybody did. But we all saw what happened there on Sunday. They got punched in the face by a divisional opponent who is not very strong. They kind of outwitted, in a sense, Brian Flores and company. They've outwitted Bill Belichick and company. So That's got to be concerning going forward, but now you're facing a Tennessee Titans team, like you were mentioned before. You want to be that hot team going into the playoffs. The Tennessee Titans are red hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Ryan Tannehill taking over the torch there at the quarterback position, playing extremely well in that offense. You know, he has weapons around him too. Mm-hmm. They have a running game with Derrick Henry, a solid offensive line, not the greatest, but not the worst. And then look at their weapons. A.J. Brown, the rookie wide receiver this year drafted, and he's making some noise. Mm-hmm. He is the favorite receiver of Ryan Tannehill. They still have, and don't forget, Corey Davis is still on that team too. So when you lock up A.J. Brown, they could still go to Corey Davis. They could still go to the young tight end and Jonnu Smith, who's had a small amount of success with that team. But that's something exciting for the Tennessee Titans fans going into this. Now, it is a tough matchup. Whenever you play New England, it's going to be rowdy. It's going to be loud. It's going to be difficult. But I think the Titans could actually pull off yet another upset because some people are thinking, well, it's a Patriots and they're home in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? Nah, they're not. They don't stand a chance to lose this game. Well, I beg to differ because the Titans are not only really good on offense, but they're defensively, they're pretty darn solid. And they've been playing without both their starting corners.
Yep.
Adoree Jackson's been out since God knows when, since mid-season. And then you have Malcolm Butler, ex-Patriot, who has been injured. So I don't know what the status is of either of those players. Are they due to come back for the playoffs? Are they not? But that's something to keep an eye on, too. But regardless, this defense has been playing fairly well and with a lot of young talent.
Yeah, definitely. And like you've mentioned before, all behind Derrick Henry here. We weren't sure what we were going to see with this new offense around Arthur Smith here. It was a big, you didn't know what to expect. You had Marcus Mariota at the helm here too. We thought there was going to be a quarterback battle from the start. Eventually, finally, they pulled the trigger week 7, and a world of a difference. The offense was struggling, couldn't put up points. And the one major thing here too that a lot of people overlook is that Ryan Tannehill is ball protection. You know what I'm saying? The difference between him and Mariota, protecting the ball, not committing those turnovers, his QBR rating has been like 118 and impeccable stats here for him. And to have Derrick Henry get him involved in the game, like we've been begging the Titans to do all last season when Matt LaFleur is at the helm.
Right.
Finally, they're doing it, not just keeping him in a wild card, a wildcat package, which was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And getting him to be the major part of the offense and have Ryan Tannehill control the game and make plays with his young receivers that he has. It's a perfect formula here for the Tennessee Titans. And Mike Vrabel, a former New England Patriot, and they've beaten the Patriots before with Mariota. Not in the playoffs,
Mariota,
but they have done it before. And I think this is a tough meal for the Patriots to have here coming up Saturday night.
Isn't that the funny thing about this, though? Because if you look back, every time the Patriots play a former member of their coaching staff, they end up pretty much losing
because they know how to.
Matt them. Patricia's beat them with the Detroit Lions. Brian Flores just recently beat them with the Dolphins.
Yes,
they're all over, and no matter where they go, they end up struggling in that game, if not losing. And it must be something that they take away with them from that organization, from the teachings of Bill Belichick and the rest of that coaching staff, they can kind of come away with, and they got some already inside information on this organization. They're like, hey, it's not rocket science, everybody. Let's just take away Julian Edelman. Let's stop the run game, and let's really see what happens. And so far, that's pretty much the formula to beat them. So let's see if the Tennessee Titans can pull that off. Going into New England, a hostile environment, with a new quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, who's been guns a-blazing every single week. It's going to be a very exciting game, but then again, I'm very curious to see what this weather is going to do. It says light rain, but we all know it could be a downpour by halftime. It could stop altogether after a few minutes after kickoff. It's going to be interesting, but that's going to play a part in this game. If the weather continues to be bad throughout this game, it's going to be a sloppy one. So it might not be as high scoring as some people might think.
Right, and that's the thing, though, too. Maybe, if it's going to be settled on the ground,
right?
I'm liking Tennessee's chances in this one. With the leading rusher of the NFL, Derrick Henry.
But
imagine that.
It's funny that you brought that up about Matt LaFleur when he was the offensive coordinator for Titans and how he just never ran Derrick Henry. Where is he right now?
Yeah,
Green Bay. What is he doing? He's running the ball with Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
And Jamal Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't he do that when he was with Tennessee? He might
I don't
even
know.
still
And
be
look what
there.
you had. We've been saying it. We've had the talent there, and look,
Right.
and now you've got the leading rusher on your team, and there you go. Hail praise,
Maybe
Arthur Smith.
maybe Matt LaFleur before he left, he was like, "Hey Arthur, I got a tip for you. I think you should run the ball more next year
Yeah,
because
maybe.
I'm leaving."
Absolutely. So there's the Tennessee Titans and then Patriots. They're going to face off at 8:15 on Saturday night. So that's your matchups here for the AFC. Very excited to see what happens with them.
They're going to be good games.
Oh,
Can't
yeah.
wait.
I can't
I
wait.
think
It's playoff
all
football,
these
baby.
games are very high
The
quality
one
games.
thing I hope, though, too, is that the way the referees have been this season,
Yeah.
if they're not a factor in these games.
Yeah, if the referees just keep the flags in their pockets and just let the teams play, that'd
Which
be
they've
great.
done in Super Bowls of the past.
They
Where
have.
they've been crazy during the regular
Yeah.
season towards the
Right.
Super Bowl, and then it's totally
Right.
holds barred, let it fly. So we'll see what happens here going on in the playoffs, and hopefully that's not one of the topics we have to bring up in another episode. All right,
not
moving
again.
on to the NFC wild card now. We have the Vikings and the Saints going toe-to-toe at 105 on Sunday, and this is going to be a good game, too. How many times have we seen the Vikings and the Saints together in the playoffs
Yeah.
again, especially the last couple of years here? We have the Minnesota Miracle, when Williams misses the tackle there on Diggs, and Diggs goes all the way, and they're shouting skull, here with
cannot imagine.
with Case Keenum. The magic's there, but a lot of the talk that's been coming around with the Vikings again is all the focus is going around on the $90 million man there at the quarterback position here for the Vikings,
Right.
and how is he going to move forward, and are they going to get over that hump? This is what they hired him for,
Hey.
and I'm talking about Kirk Cousins.
Right.
They hired him to get him over that hump, past what Case Keenum was doing, and get him into the Super Bowl. If he
Right.
can't get him to another, NFC championship game, then he's no better than what Case Keenum was, and you maybe should have just kept Case Keenum. I don't know. But
I mean, here's
this
the
is the
thing:
thing.
is with Kirk Cousins, it's always been a question about the big games with him. He tends to struggle with the big games, prime time games, whatever you want to call them. But for whatever reason, he plays immaculate any other time during the regular season. 1 o'clock game, 4 o'clock game. As soon as 8 o'clock hits, it must be past his bedtime or something, and he just is all disoriented. I don't understand. But this is yet again going to be another big-time game that Kirk Cousins and, with this Vikings offense, there's no excuse he doesn't play well. When you got Stephon Diggs and now a healthy Adam Thielen,
yeah.
with these two tight ends that they've been kind of rotating in with Irv Smith Jr. and Kyle Rudolph.
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of weapons. And you have Dalvin Cook, who you rested last week, who is a full go into the playoffs. There's no reason you can't put points up. Now, what I will say is that the Saints defense has other ideas. The Saints defense is a very good defense. They are going to put a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins. And it's how he handles that pressure in yet another big-time game. Hey, you bet you got to put up or shut up right now in the playoffs. And I believe this is his last year of his contract. So the Vikings are going to have to make a decision too. Now, he's not the youngest guy, but do the Vikings going forward have an answer? No. I saw their backup play last week, all right? Sean Mannion. No, he should never step on the football field again. That was pretty bad. So they're going to have to find yet another quarterback. Definitely has to happen, I think, in this draft. If not free agency, they're going to have to do something, because if they plan on moving on from Kirk Cousins, I know they don't want to cut him another $30 million plus check, but they're going to have to this is the window's closing. We talked about it 2 years ago, how the window is going to start to close, and now he's down to his final year of his deal. This is the year you have to make it happen. This is going to be a critical game for the offense. And then defensively, the Vikings have a solid defense. But they are also going into this game beat up. Xavier Rhodes isn't the healthiest. There's several players on this team that are kind of banged up.
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely.
now you have the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are marching into the playoffs here with Drew Brees healthy, had a week off. He's another player that got rested. Michael Thomas is well rested. Alvin Kamara is ready to go. There's a lot to like with this Saints team, and they're home. That's a dangerous place to play when you're playing against the Saints. It's not outdoors where you pretty much could beat them. Now it's in their home in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's going to be absolutely insane in there, and the Saints players, they feed off this. So the Vikings are going to have to bring their A game in order to try to attempt to steal a game in New Orleans.
Absolutely. Like you said, I mean, the fans get crazy, and they are 6-1 at home in the playoffs, you know, as through the Sean Payton era since he's been there.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, they are almost unstoppable there. The fans get crazy. It's not like when they played in Minnesota the last time and come up with a loss. And, you know, last year when they played, they just got skimmed out, you know, on a poor non-call, you know, pass interference has changed, kind of changed the rules of this year, but then it hasn't
terrible.
Because they haven't you know, overturned any of these.
The referees have been terrible.
So that's been a whole thing of turmoil here. But the Saints, they have everything to get it done. Like you said, you've got Alvin Kamara here getting it done in their passing game, the running game. When Drew Brees even went down, they were relying on Teddy Bridgewater, and he was doing fine and making plays to get it done.
But that's what I'll say there is that Sean Payton, that's what makes him a great coach. He's able to adapt no matter who is in there, even at quarterback, and make the offense still put up points. So on top of that, Alvin Kamara didn't play the whole entire season. He was banged up as well, and they were still able to win games.
Oh,
so,
because they sprinkle in a little Latavius Murray here and there, too. They can get him in there a little bit.
He's one of the best coaches, I think, in this league right now, and nobody talks about him as such. But he deserves to get the accolades.
Absolutely, and this defense is playing lights out too this season. You know, so they've been a big factor here. But as far as moving forward with the Saints, though, they also have Taysom Hill, the X factor here on this team too. He's able to make plays, and we've seen him do it on special teams. You know, he's done it on the offense, and he's just all over the ball. He's even blocked a field goal, you know, or a punt was it? But I mean, that could be a part of here in this game here too. So going against the Minnesota Vikings, they're home. It's going to be a tough matchup here. It's one of the best teams that we've seen, two teams we've seen this season. It's going to be very exciting to see what comes down here. I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's going to be Sunday afternoon.
Can't wait.
I got to square away a time to watch this game. And
got to tune in.
It's coming because the
It's going to be
Saints,
awesome.
again, they were one of people's favorites to go to the Super Bowl. They had times struggled during the season to put up points at times, but they find ways to get wins. And what do you have to do? You have to find other ways to get a win and grind out whatever you got to do to pull it out here. And they've done it. Sean Payton is one of the best at doing it here. All right, now moving on to the next matchup, we have the Seattle Seahawks versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Now they're all of a sudden, you know, the NFC East champions here, and they are going to be hosting the Seattle Seahawks, who are they were like 10-6 or so, and the Eagles are 9-7. So they host. Because they won the division, the Eagles are the wild card.
They are.
Or, I mean, the Seahawks are the wild card. But who is the better team here? I think the Seattle Seahawks do, even though they have injuries. They have injuries all over so much that they went and grabbed Marshawn Lynch, you know, out of retirement here. And,
Chris Carson got hurt and done for the season, so that was a big loss for them. One of their most physical running backs and a guy that they really kind of leaned on in the run game. A huge void happened there, and they also lost Rashad Penny. He was gone for the year as well, so they were depleted at running back. And they're like, geez, what are we going to do? You know, can't just run with one or two backs. We need to bring in someone that's familiar with the offense, someone that knows the culture, understands it. Hey, let's give Marshawn Lynch a call back. And sure enough, he agreed to come back. He played the last week he played. And did well. He did well. He was Lynch. He was the beast once again. And now he's into the playoffs with the Seattle Seahawks once again. It's going to be, let's see, maybe this playoff game, just saying, maybe Mr. Carroll learned a few lessons after being picked on from last time, losing the Super Bowl, because maybe if he ran the ball, they would have got that touchdown and pulled off a championship. But now that he has the beast once again, maybe he's not going to make that same mistake in this playoff game. Maybe he will give it to the beast to run into the end zone. But we'll have to wait and see with that. Now, with the Seattle Seahawks, you have Russell Wilson. That's a huge weapon. No matter what happens, they got a rookie in DK Metcalf who has slowly emerged as a number one receiver for them. And also Tyler Lockett there, who has been the favorite target of Russell Wilson. He's coming back for this when in this playoff game. He's going to look to have a huge game. He's going to want to make a statement in this game. And I think Russell Wilson's going to be looking for him quite often against a secondary that is seen as pretty weak. Despite the last few weeks, they've kind of come together as a defense. But nonetheless, there's some prolific players on Seattle's offense. And I don't know if the Eagles are going to be ready for them. Tyler Lockett's hard enough to stay with. DK Metcalf is like a physical nightmare. Be ready. I think you're going to see a lot of explosive plays, but I'm also excited to see Lynch run once again with Seattle. And their defense, you mentioned being banged up. There will be no linebacker of Michael Kendricks in this game. He is done. He is not going to be able to go in the playoffs. He is hurt, and he is done, and he's out. I wonder going forward, how healthy are these Seattle Seahawks? Because we've seen, and we talked about it before, Ezekiel Ansah. The DN, the pass rusher they brought in free agency, even though he is getting towards the end of his rope in his career, that we already knew in Detroit had a huge history of injuries. All the time was injured. Now we're seeing the same thing happen in Seattle. Is he going to be able to be a full go in this game? He's been banged up with Seattle now. So that's got to be concerning for some Seahawks fans out there. And then you get to the Eagles and Carson Wentz, and this offensive line, which is banged up. Brandon Brooks, the all-pro guard, will not be there. He is done for the year. So that's a huge hole in this offensive line. You also look at Jason Peters, who's also banged up. I don't even know if this guy can play anymore. I think he's definitely going to have to pull out the retirement card really soon because he's struggling to stay healthy. So this offensive line is banged up.
Yeah.
And when you get
Lane Johnson too as well, he's limited in practice.
Yeah.
Who knows how he's going to be? Zach Ertz
play.
is a little bit banged up. I mean, everybody, they're wide receiver. They're starting wide receivers.
They got none. They got no receivers. What do you got? Nelson Aguilar, which Carson Wentz doesn't even like throwing to the guy.
Yeah, not anymore. He gave up.
He does everything in his power to avoid throwing to him, and he'll throw it to the rookie J.J. Arcega-Whiteside before he throws it to anybody else.
Absolutely.
Alshon Jeffrey, he's another guy hurt all the time. So they are actually limping into this game, and I don't know if you can expect a whole lot. Their running game hasn't been that hot. Miles Sanders, Bart Scott.
Boston Scott.
That's it.
That's a little bit that gave him a little spark
plug
surge,
of a
little bit
right?
of something.
Yeah,
but again,
definitely a little surge, but it's not enough. Like you're going to need.
That's going to be your game plan now.
And
Stop
Carson
the run.
Wentz, much like Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz holds onto the ball a lot. He holds onto it too long and not getting rid of it. Take what the defense is giving you, brother. Don't hold on and wait for that big, huge, bomb down the sideline that might not even be there. Take what the defense gives you. Get the ball out of your hands because as we're going through this injury list, it doesn't look good for Carson Wentz. He might not have that full protection like he once had in the beginning of the year. He's going to have to rely on some of these guys like we just talked about Boston Scott out of the backfield, dumping it off to him.
That's where you're going to have to shorten the field. Yep.
Dallas Goedert, the other tight end for the Eagles, he's going to have to step up and play a role. Now, I think for sure Zach Ertz is going to play in this game. I don't think he would miss a playoff game to say it. Shoot him up with painkillers, whatever. He's going to be out there, but he may not be 100%. So these other low-tier players, they're going to have to step up yet again after last week.
Yeah, it's interesting to see if even Nelson Aguilar is going to be in there because he didn't even practice, this week. So let's see what they're going to do with him if he's going to make it. But I think for Carson Wentz, he'd be like, that's fine. Just stay there. But looking on the Seattle Seahawks defensive side, though, you still have KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner to worry about. Bobby Wagner leading the NFL in tackles here. KJ Wright always a Pro Bowler, on it. But the one thing is Jadeveon Clowney. He was making some big plays this season and getting into the backfield of many offenses here. He's again limited in practice. Is he going to be able to do it? I don't even think he practiced this week. So is he even going to be in the game? That's a big factor here. If Carson Wentz knows that he doesn't have to deal with Jadeveon Clowney coming at him too, that's going to make the field a little easier for him to manage here. And I see he's going to be scrambling a lot, I think, in this game still, either way. So you're going to see a lot of scrambling between him and Russell Wilson. And when it comes down to it, we're going to see who has the better receivers here on this end and can catch the ball when he's gunning it down here. Russell Wilson on one end.
I mean, for my dime, I'm going with Seattle's weapons.
I hear
over the
you.
Eagles.
I hear it, definitely. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting matchup to an extent to see the Philadelphia Eagles were barely the ones that would take the NFC East here. Nobody wanted it.
Nobody wanted that
At one
division.
point, it could have even been the Redskins. So that's how crazy this division was. And so the Cowboys aren't there. They have a lot of their own turmoil on the other end this season they're going to be dealing with in the offseason. But there we go. That's their wild card weekend. You know, we have the Philadelphia Eagles here and the Seattle Seahawks. So that's going to be Sunday night at 4:40 in the afternoon. So we're going to be really interested in looking on that one. So next we're going to get to our picks now for the wild card weekend.
Yes.
All right,
yes.
just to throw it out here quick, you know, we finished up our picks competition.
We did.
I ended up edging out Joe barely towards the end. He had to make some decisions he didn't want to, I think,
Yeah.
to try and catch me. It just couldn't happen here. Just to win here or there. That's all it takes sometimes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna settle that score later on. You know, around. I think it's gonna be on Super Bowl week. I think we did it last time. You know, so
that
he's
when
gonna
we
be
did it?
drinking
I don't
this. I
remember.
don't know. We'll figure it out before that, but he will be drinking the football full of alcohol.
Oh, boy.
But that's over. So now we can just pick the playoffs here and have some fun, Joe. No more competition here. All right, so let's look at matchup one here. We have the Buffalo Bills versus the Houston Texans here. Who do you have in this one?
Well, I mean, it's tough because you got two different spectrums from each team. You got a very prolific offense with Deshaun Watson, with Hopkins. And if Will Fuller and Kenny Stills gets in there, that's going to change the game as well for them offensively. Defensively for the Bills, they have a really solid defense. And that's going to be an amazing matchup against the Houston Texans. And the Bills offense, it's up to Josh Allen. It really is. He's got he can't make the mistakes. He can't make the inaccurate throws that he has been making of late. He's going to have better footwork in this game and better decision making. I think the Bills can run on this team, but it's going to be up to Allen in the end. And the Texans, they're home. They have J.J. Watt coming back. That's going to add some more fuel to their fire. A secondary that's playing much better than what they did in the beginning of the season. But I think I'm going to go with the Bills, honestly.
All right.
Because I just feel like the Bills' defense usually wins championships. And I don't think the Bills are going to go to the Super Bowl or anything. But I think for this game, I think the Bills' D is going to give enough opportunities to the Bills to get ahead and stay ahead.
Now, for me, the Bills, they have been getting some of their weapons here. You've seen a little more of Cole Beasley getting involved here.
A lot
in this.
more.
You know what I mean? So that's good to see. I was hoping to see it a lot earlier in the season.
Yeah, right. But whatever happened to John?
Yeah,
John Brown's
John
like
Brown,
disappeared.
I don't know. Again, he his flash in the pan. I don't know. But when it comes down to it, like you said, defense wins championships. I'm really excited about the Buffalo Bills defense here. Can they force some turnovers here against this Houston Texans offense? That's the key here. But I think the Texans have too many weapons on offense. They are able to put points on many teams here, and I think that would be a factor here in the Bills here. And I like the Texans at home. So I mean, it'll be a close one, but who knows?
Yeah,
it could go either way. That's playoff football, baby, and that's the wild card weekend. All right, here we go. Now we got the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots. Joe, who do you got in this one, the Titans or the Patriots?
Well, I mean, as of late, we've seen the Patriots struggle big time on offense, and the past 2 to 3 weeks, we noticed teams that have kind of been paying more attention to stopping their run game, and in turn, it has made that offense kind of stagnant. And their defense isn't as prolific as it once was earlier in the year. It seems like teams have kind of starting to figure out how to attack this Patriots defense. I saw Stephon Gilmore get lit up by Devontae Parker last week. And that never happens.
Yeah.
I've never seen Gilmore get exposed like he did last week. Not to say that one of the Titans receivers are going to do the same thing, but I don't like the way the Patriots have handled their team going into the playoffs. Not only were they with one of the top 2 seeds, because they lost against the Dolphins, they dropped, and now they're playing in a wild card game.
Yeah, you just slid into the wild card.
So
just
now,
like that.
now you got a team that's kind of like which was once at the top of the mountain has kind of rolled right down to the bottom, and now they got to try to fight their way back. Titans are a very hot team right now. I really like what they're doing on defense. I like what Ryan Tannehill has brung to this offense, a resurgence with this offense, and A.J. Brown and his playmaking. I like the Titans way more where they're at right now than I do like what the Patriots are. And I don't care with Bill Belichick as a coach or not. I give the edge to the Titans in this one in New England.
And one thing that you notice with the Patriots, too, is they haven't had that luxury to rest players like some of these other teams now. So they're going in there banged up, trying to rely on their, I guess, mystique that they've had here and that they're the Patriots. They've been here before. Belichick, you can't count them out. You can't count out Tom Brady.
Right.
But, again, there's one thing to be said about sticking your head into the game a little too long, a little too far, and now you're struggling now here. Now you've let it go too far. You had that debate where were they going to keep Jimmy G, and then all of a sudden the fight with Tom Brady and Belichick and Kraft, and now they move on with Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy G's gone, and now Tom Brady's your deal, and this is what you're forced with now. And now here you are slipping because you lost to a divisional opponent here the last week of the season, and even you started your players. Your starters are in. So, I mean, there's an issue there, and you're going against a tough, surging, red-hot Tennessee Titans team. I'm going with the Titans, too, as well, Joe. I like the Titans here to go into New England because I don't think anybody's afraid to go into New England now. We've seen the Chiefs go and do it, and now we just saw the Dolphins do it. And, again, former coach of in the New England Patriots system. And now we have a former player that was in the New England system that knows how to beat these guys, has done it before, and I think the Tennessee Titans have the right mix and the right firepower this time to get it done.
And that's the other thing, too, about that game, though, is for the Titans to be going into New England, Ryan Tannehill and company, they can't get too high or too low. So even if the Patriots come out and they get the ball first and they drive down and they score a touchdown, don't get too low on yourselves. Stay in the game, stay level-headed, and I think the Titans will be okay.
Absolutely. And now that brings us on to our NFC games, and we've got the Minnesota Vikings versus the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be a knockout, drag-out matchup, Joe. Who do you like in this one?
This one is going to be a black and blue game. You got two strong NFC opponents going up against each other yet again in the playoffs. You got Drew Brees. I'm sorry, I'm a huge fan of Drew Brees, as you as well, and I think it's going to be really hard to beat the Saints, not only because they're playing home, but the defense is playing lights out. It's going to be really tough on the Vikings to score. It's going to be tough on the Vikings defense to stop Drew Brees and company. Sean Payton's a phenomenal coach. I would take him over Mike Zimmer any day. Despite, I think, a very close game, I think the Saints are going to end up winning it in the end.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, too, as well.
Oh, yeah. One more point. Kirk Cousins can't play in big games.
In big games, he's not going to be able to get it done. We'll see
I'll
what
be
happens.
surprised.
Yeah, and again, this is a loaded Saints defense, a loaded Vikings defense too. This is what's exciting about this game. Dalvin Cook should be able to go here and play, so we'll see him and Alvin Kamara go toe to toe here too. So I mean, two star running backs too, and then you get down. See, this is the way I always do it too. Look at personnel, and even on the other side, you've got Michael Thomas, and you've got on the other side of him, you've got Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs now against each other. And so when you break it down here, now you're at the quarterbacks. You got Drew Brees or you've got, Kirk Cousins. I'm going to go with Drew Brees on that one. Go with the talent. Go with the guy who's been there. Rock solid guy who's breaking records weekly. Hall of Famer.
Right. And you also got the X Factor and Taysom Hill, who could
Absolutely.
They could throw some wrinkles in that offense. They could throw some wrinkles in special teams. Hey, we've seen Taysom Hill on special teams act as a blocker and end up throwing a perfect dart down the field. So
So when you got to watch that, too, on top of it, Sean Payton knows how to get it done in the playoffs for the most part, and especially at home. That crowd's going to be bumping. So we'll see what happens there. And finally, the last game here, Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, we've got the Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this one is going to be a little tougher just because of injuries that have been going on in here. I'm just going to jump ahead of you, and I like Seattle in this one. I think Russell Wilson is the better quarterback. He has more weapons to dish it off to. And even at this point, I think Marshawn Lynch will be able to run better than Boston Scott or Sanders on the other end for Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's possible. But here's my problem with the Eagles is not only are they battered up, But this offensive line could be almost like a backup offensive line playing in this playoff game. Mm-hmm. If Lane Johnson isn't able to come back, that's a huge loss. Mm-hmm. Jason Peters has been banged up pretty much all year, and he's still trying to get it going. No Brandon Brooks, all-pro guard, no Brandon Brooks. That's a huge loss. And with this Seattle team on the other side on defense, their secondary is pretty strong, pretty tight. Yeah, they don't have Michael Kendricks at linebacker, but like you mentioned before, they got Bobby Wagner, they got KJ Wright, guys not to be reckoned with. Shaquem Griffin, all the Griffins are all there. I mean, they're going to be tough to beat on defense and offensively, just like you mentioned. I like the weapons any day of the week against Philly's weapons on offense, Russell Wilson and company. I think they're going to do a lot, and they're going to run with the beast. I think we're going to get a chance to see just how in football condition this guy really is, because now that he played 1 week, let's see if he can go the whole entire game and rush the ball, because they might lean heavily on him if it's working. But on the other hand, Eagles, I think they're just too beat up coming into this playoff game.
Absolutely.
They fought tooth and nail just to win that division, and I mean, pretty much the Cowboys just gave it up. But,
yeah, they did.
But anyway, the Eagles, they did handle business, and they did end up getting the win, getting that division. Now that they've made it to the playoffs, they're just not healthy. They're so beat up and so wounded that I think this is going to be, the curtain call for them. I think they made it to the playoffs, but sorry, you got to go home.
Absolutely. So there it is. That's the wild card weekend. Don't forget to like and share the post here for all of our Facebook group members. Like it says down here, any questions and comments, go ahead, put them into the YouTube video. YouTube, subscribe, hit the notifications button, and also follow us on Twitter at FB_no, and join our Facebook group, like it says there, Football on the No Show.
And all you know-it-alls out there, just don't be shy. Come right in. You have any comments, questions, anything, just put them down in the comment section down below, and make sure that you share us. Help us grow as a football family here. And go ahead, just right on YouTube. It's real simple. You just hit subscribe. That's all we ask.
Absolutely. All right.
We appreciate you out there. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next one.
Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next episode.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the No with Jim and Joe.